Hi everyone, this is Jamie from Treasured Memories. I'm going to do a brief walkthrough showing you how to create your first campaign on Treasured Memories community funding. The first thing you want to do is go to the website, which is located at tmcfunding.com. Once you're on the site, you'll see a menu at the bottom, Start Fund. The center menu is the logo, which is the home button, and then Search Fund. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see an additional menu, Sign in and Register. We do need an account in order to create a fund, so we're going to go ahead and register. And then, just so you know, I'm copying and pasting from a different screen here, so you don't have to watch me make a bunch of typing mistakes. And we're just going to use a user called Demo User for now. Verify the password. Of course, accept the terms and conditions. If you want to read them, click there. And choose I'm not a robot. Go ahead and click Sign Up. And once this goes through, we now have an account with a username called Demo User. We can go ahead and sign in now using the Demo User login. And once you're signed in, it will redirect you to the My Campaigns page. Once you've created multiple campaigns, they'll all be listed here. This is the easy way to find your campaign, so you don't have to go searching through the site for them. You can also edit your profile here, like if you want to change your password, and sign out, of course. Now that we're signed in, we're going to go ahead and click on Start Fund. Now, before I start filling in fields here, I want to go ahead and explain a couple of different options that you have here within the category. There's 3 options, actually. And you'll notice when I select the different ones that some of the information here is going to change. So the first category is Help a Family in Need. This is if a family is having a hard time coming up with the funds to pay for a funeral. That's the option that you would choose. The next option is Memorial Donations. In lieu of flowers, the family requests that donations be made in the deceased's name to a specific charity. This is where you could raise all of the money all in one place to provide one single check to the charity. And then the third one is community events. So there doesn't necessarily have to be a deceased connected to this. Like a church is having a fundraiser for some reason or another, you could create them a campaign here using that category. And you'll notice that community events and Help a Family in Need, there's a goal amount, but when I select Memorial Donations, the goal amount goes away. Typically, you don't put a cap on how much money you're looking for memorial contributions. For the sake of our walkthrough here, I'm going to go back to Help a Family in Need. I'm going to go ahead and put a title in for our fundraiser in memory of John Doe. We're going to put a goal amount of, we'll say, $10,000. Now the summary, this is just a snippet of text, basically to get people's interest and get them to click on the campaign and read the full story. This is what's going to show up on social media. When you share it, it's going to be the first thing that people see to actually get them to click on it. So I'm going to go ahead and, of course, I have something prepared for this. Just so you can see where I put in there. The next box here, Tell Your Story. This is the full story. It can be as long as you want it to be. It can be as in-depth as you would like it to be. This is where you really want to pull on people's heartstrings to get them to contribute to the campaign. Again, I do have something pre-written here. I'm going to go ahead and copy in. And then coming down below there, we have an end date. It does default to 30 days after you hit that Start Fund button. You can change it to any time frame that you would like. The next option, Publish. This is if you are, as a funeral home staff member, if you're preparing to meet a family and you want to get a campaign started before they get there, but you don't actually want it to be live because you haven't gotten their permission to do that yet, You can go ahead and get it started, get everything in there that's required, and then go ahead and put no. And then once you save it, it'll show up on that My Campaigns page that I showed you at the beginning of this video. Allow contributions to exceed the goal amount. Exactly what it says. You can have a hard cutoff once the goal amount's reached, or you can just let it get as much donations as possible, as many donations as possible. Let others see contributions received for this fundraiser. Again, just like it sounds, if you select no for that, then everybody that leaves a donation will not be shown on the website to the public. If you leave it at yes, there is a list of everybody that makes a donation and their dollar amount. Once you're done with this first page, you can go ahead all the way down to the bottom and click next. Now we're on page 2. As you can see, there's 4 pages to this form. So being that this is a Help a Family in Need, the beneficiary, which is typically who is responsible for paying the funeral bill, we're going to put their name in here and their information. The biggest reason being is if the campaign raises more than what the funeral bill costs, we are going to cut a check to the beneficiary for their remaining amount. Go ahead and copy my information in here. Since John Doe is our deceased, I'm going to use Jane Doe as the beneficiary. And put a zip code in. Phone number, of course. And an email address. And that is it for this page. We can go ahead and click next. Now this is where we'll put the deceased's name, if indeed it is. Oops, I apologize, that didn't copy correct. We'll put the deceased's name in, assuming that it is something that does have a deceased, and the obituary link. You definitely want to put the obituary link in here because this will create a button that links back to your website. We definitely want people spending as much time on your website as possible. Now this next part, if you are a Treasured Memories member, your funeral home should be in this drop-down. You can go ahead and select a funeral home, and you'll notice that when I selected the funeral home that the Associate ID box popped up. The first time you go through this, you're going to want to click on this link and you're going to want to apply for an associate ID. You'll see that when I click on it, another tab opens. It is to a completely different website. We're going to go ahead and put this information in. Oops. Choose West Virginia. Okay. Email address, and then we're actually just going to use the same username that we were using for our funding account. Now once you have all of this filled in, you can go ahead and click the submit button. And it's going to give you your associate ID right then and there. It is also going to email it to you so that you can save that for your records. But I'm going to go ahead and copy that associate ID. I can close this tab and come right back in here and paste it. Now this is how fast this works. Watch when I tab out of this box that the funeral home associate and associate email automatically filled in for me. That's based off of what I put into that associate ID form. Make sure you keep this number. This is how we do track each individual's associates campaigns and how much has been raised. Moving on to the next step here, if your funeral home was not listed in the drop down up here, if you're not a Treasured Memories member, then this is where you want to fill that information in just so that we know who we're dealing with. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page. This is where you will choose the main image for the fundraiser. Typically, it's going to be a picture of the deceased. It could be the same picture that you use for the obituary is typically what people do. I'm going to go ahead and select it. I understand that you probably can't see this box pop up, but it should be what you're used to seeing when you select choose a file on your computer. And then I just selected default image. It's a flower image. You also do have the option of adding additional images to create an image gallery. If you do have images that you want to use for that, you just hit this green plus and you can put in, I believe it's up to 10 images. We'll go ahead and get rid of those since we don't need any. And we're going to go ahead and save the fundraiser. Now it takes me back to my campaigns. And here we have just a little bit of information about the fundraiser itself. Here is a link straight to it, and here's a link to editing it. So if you opted not to publish it, it would say no here, and you could click here and go straight back to the screen to edit it, select yes, and then save it. I am going to actually log out and show you what your campaign will look like once it's done. So I'll go ahead and sign out. And just so you know, I opened it in a new tab so that I could just refresh it and show you without the menus. So here we have the campaign we created. Here's the social media snippet, the summary. Here's the main story at the bottom. The image that we used, of course. When you select your funeral home from the drop-down, it does automatically put this little paragraph in that the campaign was created in partnership with your funeral home. And then the link here, of course, will, when you click on it, open a new window taking them to the obituary on your website. And then it's just as easy as clicking Give Now for anybody that wants to leave a donation. So that's it as far as the actual starting a campaign. There's two other things that I want to point out to you. We have two links, and this is at the bottom of every page in the footer. Frequent questions. Pretty good idea to check that out, especially if you're kind of unsure of what you're doing. There's a lot of good information there. Documents. This is really important. First, creating a successful campaign. I know this is at the bottom. I'm starting with it. Tips that we've found out through our creating this website and creating all the different campaigns, just some things that we've seen that make them campaigns as successful as possible. And we want to pass that information on to you. We want the campaigns to be as successful for you as possible. These other two, the disclosure form and the disbursement form. First, we'll talk about the disclosure form. That serves a few different purposes. It's somewhat of a contract between the family, more of an understanding between the family and the funeral home. That states that, number one, that because you're creating this campaign, it does not guarantee that it's going to raise the money that they need to pay for the funeral. There is no way to guarantee that. Another thing that the disclosure form does is it makes sure that the family knows that they are still responsible for the funeral bill if enough is not raised through this campaign. And one of the other things that it states is that it states that the funeral home gets paid first, and the family has to understand that we will write a check to cover the remainder of the whatever's left of the funeral bill, and the family, if there is anything above and beyond that, will get the rest of it. Well, that is all I have for you today. Oh, I'm sorry, I should talk about the disbursement form. The disbursement form is what you'll have to send back to us to release the funds. In it, the funeral staff has to sign it, put how much is left of the funeral bill, and send us a copy of the funeral bill. We just want to make sure that we're going through the right channels and giving the correct people the right amount of money. So that's what the disbursement form is for. And whoever sets up the campaign will actually, the disbursement form will be emailed to them in an automated email the day after it ends. So you don't have to come here and get it every time. It'll be emailed to you along with, you know, how much the campaign raised, and a nice donor sheet lists all of the donors and how much they donated. But anyways, that is it. Thank you for checking out our video. Of course, if you have any questions, you can go to TMC Funding and then contact us, and we'll be happy to help you out in any way we can.